What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another highly combustible reaction. We're gonna be jumping into the next one on our Netherlands journey. This is the Netherlands beyond Amsterdam because everybody was giving me stuff from Amsterdam. Someone finally decided to give me something beyond Amsterdam, apparently. I'm excited. Let's jump in. Let's see what it's about. If all we were getting was Amsterdam information, I want more than that. I want to know about the whole of the country, all right? Not just Amsterdam. There's much more to the Netherlands than Amsterdam. Let's go. Tell me about it.
Hi, I'm Rick Steves, back with more of the best of Europe. The people here claim if you stand on a chair, you can see all across their country. This is the best of the Netherlands. Thanks for joining us.
It's that flat? Like, I knew y'all said it was flat, but it's standing on a chair, you can see across the whole country. That's a little bit much. That means that there are no hills, like negative hills. Going on a real TV show journey. Rick Steves, Europe.
Traveling here, it's easy to see how the Netherlands is a lot like its people. Efficient, a good balance of old and new, hard work and fun, innovation and tradition. Even with a dense population and an ongoing battle with the sea, the Dutch are warm and even-keeled. We'll cruise through a mighty port, go for an old-fashioned sail, and visit the ultimate flower market.
All right.
We'll marvel at Dutch masters, smoke some eels.
I've heard about the smoked eel. I've heard about it. And I know this looks like an organ.
Pull out all the stops on an unforgettable organ, and start up a classic windmill.
Yeah.
In the west of Europe is the Netherlands, with 12 provinces, including North and South Holland. Everything we'll see is within an hour of Amsterdam. We'll sail what was the Zuiderzee, blocked off by long dams. Explore characteristic towns from Delft to Rotterdam and Haarlem to Marken, with lots in between.
You're gonna snack while we do this.
Most Dutch travel dreams are set in the area called Holland, and that's where we'll be spending most of our time. Like many fortified old cities, Delft welcomes you with the twin towers of its city gate, graced by an old drawbridge and a canal moat.
That's a legit drawbridge. That's like a no-kidding drawbridge. Look at it. Does it still go up and down?
It's
like a
delightful
fairy tale
architecture
land.
recalls the Golden Age, the 17th century pinnacle of Dutch trade and sea power. Quaint scenes line intimate canals. It's Thursday, and that means market day in Delft.
All right.
In towns all over the Netherlands, main squares become thriving markets one day a week. It's late June, and the herring are in season.
Not for highly combustible, they're not.
And every market comes with a cheesemonger, almost evangelical about the tastiness of Dutch cheese.
Real, I'm gonna get up there and get some Dutch cheese because I'm a cheese eater. And it looks like they have a lot of spectacular cheeses to eat.
Ask a question, and you're in for an education, complete with samples. This is young. How young is this?
About 4 or 6 weeks.
So tell me about this one.
4.5 years old, handmade and quite strong. We have sometimes we have them even older.
I like that. Give me a glass of port, and this is my dessert.
Yeah.
Towering over the square is the church with its brick steeple rocketing skyward. And facing that, overseeing the town's
Does they have bells? Do they ring?
commerce as it has for nearly 1,000 years, is the City Hall. Much of the Netherlands is built on soggy land. The City Hall, with its heavy stone jail, was built on the most solid land in town.
Smart.
The Leaning Church, just down the...
No. The Leaning Church? Leaning Tower of Pizza, I guess, has been there for a while, though. So it might be all right. The Leaning Church. That's got to be an old church. It was built on some soggy land. Look at it. It's just kind of teetering off to the
was
side.
built on the most solid land in town. The Leaning Church, just down the canal, not so much. The town's historic canals both drained the land and provided a transportation network for barges. Today, the old barges are retired. Many are permanently moored in front of cafes and restaurants for outdoor dining. Over the centuries, these little canals shipped out countless barge loads of the town's famed earthenware. Delftware is famous all around the
Pottery.
world. Royal Delft, the oldest surviving workshop,
Ceramics.
established back in the 1600s, welcomes visitors to drop in and see how it's made. Visitors to the factory follow the process.
Oh, I've got to go
First,
to a
the liquid
pottery
clay is poured
factory.
into plaster molds. When dry, it's removed, and the seams are smoothed off. Then it's baked, and then lovingly painted by hand. A mesmerizing scene, unchanged for centuries. After being glazed to fix the paint, it's baked a second time, during which the paint turns blue. That's the secret of Royal Delft Blue since 1653.
Wow.
The finished product? This highly valued earthenware. Rooms of historic Delftware show off this art. This table setting is laid out as if it was the home of a wealthy person here in Delft.
There must be
The
some
Netherlands
expensive
is small,
pottery.
smaller than West Virginia, and the most densely populated country in Europe. Most of
In all of Europe?
and the most densely populated country in Europe. Most of the country is below sea level, reclaimed with great effort over many generations from the sea. That's why they like to say, God made the world, but the Dutch
Made the
we made
Netherlands.
Holland. This is polderland. Much of it once covered by the sea, it was encircled by dikes and dams and then drained.
The Dutch made Holland and God. Come on now, guys. You don't get to take credit for Clint. I guess you can. Nobody can really bite you against it. Nobody can say you can't take the credit. You fought Poseidon and you won. You stole back some land from the Mer people. That's crazy. You must be Atlanteans. That's the only way. I'm serious. It's at the top of my list. I'm
To pump
checking
out all
underneath
that water,
the Netherlands
the
for
Dutch
Atlantis.
used one of their leading natural resources, the wind.
Yeah.
For centuries, the Dutch
Okay, I'm gonna ask a serious question because this is what I was wondering. I see the modern windmill in the back, and I see the other windmill right here. Are both kinds still actively doing something today? Or have we switched mostly to modern ones? Or how does it work? Let me know.
built windmills. Over 1,000 survive, and many still work.
Well, there we
Some
go.
welcome visitors interested in a peek at the clever engine
Wow,
that
they're really
powered the
close
creation
to each
of this
other.
land. I'm standing on reclaimed land, 12 feet below sea level. The challenge for the Dutch, to keep this land dry by pumping water uphill. Many windmills used their wind power to turn an Archimedes screw like this, which by rotating in a tube, lifted water up and over the dike. To catch the desired amount of wind, millers, like expert sailors, know just how much to unfurl the sails or
Do they still have millers today? Like, is that legitimately still a job title? Like, I'm a miller. I go out and I put windmills together, like these ancient looking windmills. Whoa,
furl
that's
them
so
back
cool.
as necessary.
I never met
Mills
a
are
miller.
built with sturdy oak timber frames to withstand the constant tension. These timbers have stood strong since the 1600s. When the direction of the wind shifts, the miller turns the cap of the building, which weighs many tons, to face the breeze. As he's
I had no idea that the top of those things spun around. I thought they were just a fixed thing that caught wind. I had no idea there was gears and mechanics that moved the whole building cap.
bends the winch, it all slides on these wooden roller bearings.
Wow, this is
Then,
intriguing.
with a hefty chain, he anchors it in the correct spot. As the wooden cogs connect, wind becomes clean power. Archimedes' screw rotates, and the water spirals up. The Dutch had long eyed what was the vast inland Zuiderzee as the source of new land. This 18-mile-long dam was built as one of many steps in turning that sea into farmland. The master plan cordoned off sections of the shallow sea with hundreds of miles of dams and dikes like this. Then, by draining each section dry, piece by piece, build a bigger country.
That's smart.
These fields were once the bottom of that wide open sea. Gradually, land was reclaimed, and today the Netherlands is twice the size it was 400 years ago. Because of this reclamation, what had been fishing villages on little islands, like Schokland, are now high and dry mounds rising above fertile farmland. Behind this sturdy stone and wood seawall, this tiny community once harvested the sea. In its day, this cannon warned visitors of a high tide. I'm standing below sea level. I know that because I picked up a handful of dirt and it came with some shells. And this marks sea level, according to the official Amsterdam
Whoa,
measure.
sea level's way up there.
Imagine, a couple generations ago, this buoy bobbed in the harbor. What was the bottom of the sea is now productive farmland.
Oh,
The
so
salty
cool.
seabed soil, with a mix of rain, sunshine, and clever crop rotation, eventually becomes extremely fertile. One thing the polder soil grows particularly well is flowers. And here at the Aalsmeer Flower Auction, it's clear. Flowers are big business in Holland.
That's a lot of damn flowers. We look like a Costco.
Aalsmeer
Got
Flower Auction,
forklifts
it's clear.
and-
Flowers are big business in Holland. Visitors are welcome in this, one of the world's largest commercial buildings. They witness
One of the world's largest commercial buildings. Not one of the Netherlands' largest commercial buildings, one of the world's.
in this, one of the world's largest commercial buildings.
It's for
They
flowers.
witness millions of dollars in the trafficking of flowers. In its auction halls, hundreds of wholesalers bid on trainloads of flowers as they roll by. To get the flowers out as fresh as possible, everything happens fast, including the bidding. A Dutch auction is speedy because the prices go from high to low. Batches of flowers are sold to the first buyer to press the button.
Oh, wow.
Buyers must be lightning quick. It's the only way to sell so many flowers in one morning. Strolling the fragrant catwalk, it's fun to peer down on the action. They boast that fresh flowers go from cutting in the fields to flower shops anywhere in Europe within 24 hours. Whoa. Workers scramble to get each buyer's purchase assembled on a train and shipped out. The Dutch are the world's
I can only imagine how many people must work there. The staff must be beyond vast to be able to put up with those kind of numbers.
leading flower exporters. 80% of these flowers are going abroad. Every day from this building, 20 million flowers are shipped, destined to make someone's day.
A day.
The industrious heritage of the Dutch people is evident in its many historic cities. Haarlem is a Dutch master's
That's a
kind of town
gorgeous
with
little
plenty of
cathedral.
17th century
Whoa.
architecture. The town gate, no longer needed as part of its fortification, welcomes all into a delightful
They still have a legit town gate. Like where they used to close it up and be like, no, you can't come in
town
here.
gate, no longer needed as part of its fortification, welcomes all into a delightful old town. Haarlem's Market Square, traffic-free since the 1960s, has been the town's focal point for centuries. The herring stand is a standard feature of small town squares throughout Holland. Hello.
Hi.
Is it herring time now? Are these fresh?
That's fresh. It's
Yeah.
new herring season, so it's
In the summertime,
great.
it's good.
Yeah, summer times.
So what are my options?
The options outside of Amsterdam, they grab it from the tail,
And
so
just
they
send it
slide
right
it inside and they bite it.
Yeah, and in Amsterdam?
In Amsterdam, we cut it in pieces.
Let's have it Amsterdam style.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Do you want onions and pickles with it?
What is the normal way?
With everything.
I'll have everything. That's
The
great.
whole package.
The whole package. Beautiful. And
Do you
this
want-
is actually raw?
This is raw. It's marinated with salty, and then we eat it with the Dutch flag.
So this is a patriotic duty in the Netherlands.
Yeah,
Is this, people say this is a healthy thing to eat.
it is.
So how do you say delicious and healthy?
Lekker en gezond.
Lekker en gezond.
Yeah.
Raw fish.
Raw fish.
Why not?
Why not?
This will make me a good man.
You already are, but now you're better.
Hey, there you go.
Lekker en gezond.
To uncover some of Haarlem's sights, dodge bikes down narrow, characteristic lanes. Just down the street, Haarlem's top museum features the work of its most famous son, the great portrait artist Frans Hals. Here, in a room full of his masterpieces, we get a good taste of Protestant Dutch art. When the Dutch broke away from Spain and the Catholic Church in the 1600s, they established an independent Protestant republic. While this was great for freedom, it was a crisis for painters. No more wealthy bishops and art-loving kings to commission grand works of art. Dutch society was a merchant society, and now artists worked for a new kind of customer. Merchants. These are the ego-boosting portraits of city bigshots. They epitomize the independent and upwardly mobile Dutch of the 17th century. The men who made the Golden Age golden. These Dutchmen worked hard and were proud of it. Here, some business leaders close a deal. They enjoyed displaying the fruits of their labor, like this, an exquisitely detailed still life of good food.
Does
No
look good.
preachy Madonnas or saints,
Look at the detail. My goodness.
but a canvas reminder that this household ate very well. And this family had some fine pewterware. In this woman's portrait, her elegant dress and jewelry are painted with as much care as her face.
Yeah, it is. Look at those lines.
Painters showed city pride as well. The centerpiece of most Dutch cities is the church. You see it in 300-year-old paintings, and you see it today as you explore.
That's awesome.
Haarlem's Groot Kerk, or Great Church, towers over the market square as if to bless all the business that takes place below. Inside, you find a towering Gothic nave, which was whitewashed and purged of its Catholic ornamentation when the Reformation arrived in 1566. Small frescoed sections revealed when the whitewash was cleaned off show how the entire church was originally decorated. As was the case in many Protestant countries, rather than huge, preachy works of visual art like frescoes and statues promoting the message of the church, the artistic emphasis was put on music. Protestant churches invested in mighty pipe organs.
Look at the
Haarlem's
pipes on that
towering
thing,
organ.
Michael. There's a lot of pipes. No wonder it can make so many different damn noises. Lord, is it built in? They ain't going that. You can't can't move the organ. The organ is there to stay.
Has
Like,
been giving
that's
worship here an
nuts.
inspirational soundtrack since 1738.
Goodness.
And visitors enjoy free concerts weekly.
You know it's an instrument when you have to have co-pilots to play it.
With Europe's densest population, the Netherlands has invested in an impressive public transportation infrastructure. Buses
What
and
was
trains
that in the field?
has invested in an impressive public transportation infrastructure. Buses and trains seem to go everywhere all the time. After leaving Haarlem, in a few minutes we're in Rotterdam with its striking new train station.
That's crazy in just a few
Rotterdam
minutes.
has a gleaming skyline and Europe's largest port. It's a reminder of the Dutch knack for international trade. Locals say that while the money is spent in Amsterdam, it's made here in Rotterdam. They boast that shirts in Rotterdam are sold with the sleeves already rolled up. A walk through this thriving pedestrian zone complements our quaint old world sightseeing with a dose of today's reality. Rotterdam's port is the third largest in the world. With a harbor tour,
So
you
crazy.
can appreciate
in the
its
world.
immensity.
What? How come everything they say is in the world? We got to be the biggest in the world, the best in the world. I see you, Dutchies.
Port handles 35,000 ocean-going vessels each year. That's almost 100 ships a day. While most of these ships sail the open seas, this is where the Rhine River meets the ocean. And from here, riverboats filled with either tourists or cargo can go all the way through Europe to the Black Sea. Back in the 17th century, the Dutch East India Company, which did business in ports all around the world, was, in a way, the first great multinational corporation. Today, the Dutch, with little in the way of natural resources, still make their serious money in trade. They remain among the world's great shippers. After mighty Rotterdam, the tiny but historic port of Hoorn, a couple hours to the north, seems quaint. But in its day, it was one of 6 trading cities that joined forces to create the Dutch East India Company.
I love that they
It
have all
evokes
the
a
old
rich history
buildings.
from its once formidable harbor to its main square. Overlooking the square is the West Fries Museum, which takes you vividly back to Holland's golden age. Stepping into the venerable building, which dates from the 1600s, the floor creaks. Its planks were salvaged from centuries-old trading ships, which likely
The building's built out of ships. I want a house built out of ships. That's it.
sailed all the way to the Spice Islands on the far side of the world. Here you feel the pride and the power of the Dutch when they dominated world trade and brutally capitalized on their far-flung colonial empire. Pondering group portraits above the mantel, you can imagine the influence and the wealth of these tycoons. Here they're portrayed as if they control the globe. In a way, they did. And much of that was because of the value of the spices they imported. With the bland cuisine of Europe back then, you can imagine the demand for these new exotic spices. You could spice up both your food and your life with peppercorns, cloves, and cinnamon. And nutmeg was so valuable, it was said a bag of these could buy a house in 17th century Holland.
What?
Exploring Holland, we're struck by the big skies, fertile fields, and flat land.
A bag of
The
nuts
country
bought
is
some
bounded
house.
by the North Sea.
No.
Where there are no natural dunes to keep the sea out, the Dutch have had to build mighty walls or dikes to protect their farms and communities.
Yes.
Roughly half the people and half the land here in the Netherlands are below sea level. And for 700 years, the Dutch have developed their expertise at keeping this country dry. It's a constant battle. And now with climate change and rising sea levels a reality, the work is that much harder and more expensive. Even with impressive dikes already in place, the Dutch are moving mountains of sand and mud to fortify their dikes and protect their next generation. Famous for both their frugality and their foresight, the Dutch are investing billions of euros as climate change makes its costly impact felt on sea level communities here and around the globe. And flood protection requires more than massive dikes. Built where the big river meets the sea, the Maasland storm surge barrier is an amazing engineering project. When necessary, its 2 arms, each as long as the Eiffel Tower is high, are swung together to create a barrier.
This is the
This
barrier.
stops a storm surge from flooding the Rotterdam Delta, where a
The
million
thing
people
is so
live.
badass.
Low-lying American cities are importing Dutch expertise as they too face the reality of the future. Along with their role as protectors of the Netherlands, some of the dikes and sand dunes that make the North Sea coast
Oh,
are
the statue's eating a herring. Look at it. Holding it up by the tail, about to gulp it down with its long, spindly arms.
playgrounds as well. And ever since the industrial age kicked into gear, local workers have come here for their R&R. At the
Looks like the
seaside resort
boardwalk.
of Scheveningen, that Dutch love of life is cranked way
Looks
up.
like the boardwalk. Those are cool
Rather than
beach
fight
things.
the sea, here, people play in it. And for over a century, Dutch holiday goers have enjoyed this promenade. With the comfort of knowing Dutch engineers are keeping the sea at bay, my favorite days in Holland are spent below sea level, in its quaint and picturesque corners. Here you can experience the landscape of Holland as it was back in the 17th century. Exploring villages that seem to be built on both land and water, you get a sense for what life must have been like for the Dutch centuries ago. In the town of Enkhuizen is the Zuiderzee Museum. While the modern world threatens traditional ways of Dutch life, this creative museum strives to keep them alive for future generations to appreciate. Its sprawling layout allows visitors to travel through
That was a
both
very
time
interesting,
and
unique looking
culture.
game.
In one corner, people are living as if still in a remote fishing village back in 1905. Exploring the park, you enjoy intimate slices of life from Old Holland.
Yeah, net weaving.
The coopers artfully make their barrels watertight. The coal furnace is stoked to run the belt-driven laundromat. Sudsing
A belt-driven laundromat, what?
and ringing. The sailmaker stitches a sail. The blacksmith pounds his
Yeah,
iron
we got a real
in his wooden
blacksmith too.
claws.
In his claws. Are
Fisherman
his pants tacked to the bottom of those claws?
in his wooden claws.
Or maybe it just has a little leather thing on there now.
Fishermen are smoking their eels.
Yeah, I heard about the smoked eel. Is it delicious? Who
and
loves it?
visitors devour the entire experience. And here in the Netherlands, if you know where to look, you can also enjoy traditional experiences outside the museum.
Yeah, I
We're
wanna
sailing
go
to
on
the
a
fishing
boat.
village of Marken in a traditional fishing boat. A few of these venerable boats survive. This one earns its keep by hiring out to visitors, and in the case of this motley crew, putting them to work.
Yeah.
How are we doing, Captain?
Almost. One more goal.
How old is this boat?
It's from 1904. Yeah. It's 110 years old, this boat.
What was the purpose? What was the work it did?
The purpose is a fishing boat. It's a working boat. They just did fishing with it, nothing else.
Now, back then, this was saltwater, right?
It was salt water because there was no dike in the north, so it was salt water. So they fished on herring, anchovies.
How many people would work on the boat when it went out?
Well, they were with one skipper and one mate, so they actually did it with two
Two people
Just two.
operating the
Only
whole
two.
They
boat.
sailed and worked this ship. They even did fishing with it with two people.
So they would go fishing for how many days?
On Sunday they went to church, of course, and they started on Monday morning, and they came back Friday evening.
5 days out. Two
Wow,
men in
5
this
days on the
Yeah, they
ocean.
were. That was the
In
time
this
of wooden
boat.
ships and Iron Man.
Wooden ships and iron men. Those were the days.
Yeah.
Wooden ships and Iron Men indeed.
Marken welcomes visitors with its charming harbor. It's a favorite with vacationing yachters who enjoy late sunsets with convivial happy hours. The oldest homes in the village were built on the highest ground. They huddle together as if finding strength in numbers in the face of the next flood. In the 19th century, this harbor was the thriving home.
This is by far one of the most informational videos that we have watched to date as far as taking us around. I definitely am enjoying this one.
fishing
Hey,
boats.
we're learning
But along
so
with
much.
fishing, devastating floods were a way of life here in Marken. When they walled off the sea with a massive dike 50 miles north of here, the salt water turned to fresh water and the sea was controlled. It was tough on the fishing industry, but overall, good for the people. No more floods. While Marken remains both traditional and idyllic to this day, like so much of the Netherlands, it's a place where the past and the present mingle comfortably. The Netherlands offers travelers a rich variety of sights and experiences. And traveling here, sooner or later, you find yourself exclaiming, everything's just so Dutch. I'm Rick Steves. Until next time, keep on traveling. Tot ziens.
Hey, 100%. If you enjoyed it, go show Rick Steve some love over on his channel. We're gonna get some bloopers.
Now, the Netherlands is a lot like its people. Warm, even-keeled, good on bikes. Many
Good
windmills
on
use
bikes.
their wind power to turn an Archimedes screw like this. Sooner or later, you find yourself exclaiming.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, if you liked it, go show Rick Steve some love. I'm going to drop the channel down inside the description. By far one of the most informational things that we've seen so far. Just so much going on in the Netherlands. Oh, there's so much to learn, so much to see. I don't know if you'd be able to do it in a single trip. How long recommended trip you think it would take to take everything in? If you guys enjoyed it, hit the like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike button. Check out one of the videos up there. Subscribe right here if you want to see more content, possibly your content. Till the next one, I'm highly combustible. You guys be happy, have the safe. I love you to the moon and back. Peace.